Welcome to the stream, everyone. Oh, real quick. Just announcing it one more time. I have a brand new book, Korean Reading Made Simple 2, Korean Folk Tales. And I explain like everything I can possibly think of to explain, not just vocabulary words and grammar. So like where vocabulary words came from, so you can actually understand if that's a word you should learn or not. It just came out a few weeks ago. And now back to your scheduled programming. Okay, I just broke it. Broke my pen. We're going to be learning about honorific speech. What is honorific speech? 높임말. It's related to 높다, to be high. Well, 높이다 is the causative version, means to make something high. So words that have been elevated. And this is honorific speech. So the way it works, honorific speech just shows extra respect toward the person, again, a person that someone is talking about. And the way that it does that is by elevating, figuratively, the person that you're talking about. Again, it is the person who someone is talking about. I did not say the person you're talking to. That could be the person you're talking to. I'm talking about you, in which case you can use it, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anyone in the world, whether they're in the room with you or not. You're just showing extra respect towards someone you're talking about. I respect this person I'm talking about. Now, it could be you, but if I'm talking to you, but I'm talking about someone else, I might use a different level of politeness there. So honorific speech can be used together with casual speech. You can have it with formal speech. You can also have it with plain form. Any speech level is fine to mix with honorific speech because honorific speech, again, is showing respect to the person you're talking about. Whereas casual speech, formal speech, plain form, all that is more related to who you're speaking with. Like if I'm talking with my friend, I would just say, 야, 뭐 해? 뭐 먹었어? But if I'm talking with my friend about my grandmother or about their grandmother, I'm not going to say, 어디 갔어? Where did your grandmother go? 할머니 어디 갔어? It sounds rude. So I would say, 가셨어? So I'm using casual speech with my friend, but I'm talking about the grandmother now respectfully. Don't think that honorific speech has to do with how you're necessarily speaking with someone else. It's about whoever you're talking about. Note, however, it is used to show extra respect towards someone that you're talking about. This is always going to be someone. It's not going to be an animal. If you have your boss's dog comes into work, you would never tell the dog, 안녕하세요 actually uses honorific speech. That would be really awkward to use honorific speech to the dog and then use honorific speech toward the boss. It's kind of like putting them on the same level. The other thing is you're not going to use honorific speech toward children. And you also wouldn't usually use honorific speech for talking about an object. So you wouldn't say, 이 펜 정말 멋지세요. You would never use honorific speech about like a thing. I'm putting a quote around this because there are situations when you do, but not regular objects. So only for people. So when you use honorific speech, what it does is it acknowledges that you respect, the speaker respects the person who you're talking about. If you're talking about someone else and you respect that person, then use honorific speech. Your teachers, your mentors, a coworker, anyone you feel respect toward. So it's used a lot. And honorific speech has the feeling of, I want to express that I either respect or look up to the person that I'm talking about. So this includes anyone who's socially higher than you are. This will be teachers, your boss, maybe your coworkers, leaders, anyone of a higher rank than you, any stranger. You need to be polite. You need to use honorifics. In fact, it could be rude if you asked a question to a stranger and you didn't use honorific speech. So if you're asking a stranger a question like, hey, excuse me, do you know where is the bathroom? 화장실이 어디 있는지 알아요? This would be kind of not flat out rude because they'll see you're not a native Korean speaker, but a little bit rude. But why? It has the yo at the end. It should be polite. Well, it's not honorific. You're talking about the stranger. You're asking them, do they know? Do you know? I'm talking about you right now. Not just to you, but about you. 알아요 would actually be a bit rude. 아세요? Now you're spot on. You sound great. Now, if you're talking about yourself, 저는 알아요. That's fine because you wouldn't use honorifics there anyway. 저는 알아요. I know. Perfect to a stranger. 알아요? No. Other people you want to use honorific speech to would be grandparents, other people's parents, other people's grandparents, and optionally, your own parents. the way you speak with your own parents, if they're Korean, will depend on your relationship. So I can't say that you have to use this when talking about your parents. And then again, any acquaintance, so anyone you know but you're not close with, if they're not really young, you want to use honorifics when talking about them. So honorific speech includes unique verbs, a verb ending, nouns, and particles. All of those are important to know, but of those, the verbs are going to be the most important. So we're going to start with honorific verb endings. And the way it works is actually very simple. The way to make an honorific verb is you take a regular verb and you get its stem and you attach 으시다 if that stem ends in a consonant. For example, 읽다 is to read, while the honorific version of 읽다 is 읽으시다. 하다 is to do. The honorific version of 하다 is 하, and it doesn't end in a consonant, so you just attach 시다, 하시다. There are a couple common exceptions. If the verb stem ends with this letter, for example, 살다, you just remove this letter first, and then you attach, well, it ends in a vowel, so you attach 시다, 사시다. Or if it ends in this letter, 피읍, for example, 덥다, to be hot. You get the stem, you remove it, but then you also have to add this, 우. And then you can attach this again, 더우시다. So now we have the honorific verb of those regular verbs. Now we can conjugate those verbs and use them exactly as any other verb. So instead of 어디 살아요, where do you live? We can say 어디 wait a minute. How do we conjugate this then? We have 하시다. Well, how do we conjugate a verb normally? Well, you remove the ta, right? If it ends in the vowel o or a, it doesn't end in either of these vowels. That means we attach o, you, right? But whenever this can be combined with the syllable that it comes before, these actually will stick together. So you get 하셔. It's literally the same thing. 하시어, 하셔, 하셔요, right? This is how it works, but it's not. But it is, but just trust me, it's not. This is not how the you form is conjugated, but this is how the verb is conjugated. When you're making past tense, you get to here, and then you attach the double things at the bottom, right? The double S's, and then you go like this. Now you have past tense, 하셨어요. Perfect! You want the future tense? 하시다. Well, you first get the verb stem, then you add 일 거야, like that, or 거예요. 하실 거야. Yes, now you have the future tense. All of the conjugation for this works normally, except the you form. Fortunately, the you form is very simple. You do not have to do any special conjugation further. You just attach this. And always this. 으세요. 으세요 if it ends in a consonant, or just 세요 if it ends in a vowel. So 하다, we had 하시다. Well, now we can have 하세요. That's all we have to do. 읽다, for to read, we have 읽으시다, right? Now we have 읽으세요. It's always 으세요 or 세요 for the you form. But it doesn't work for any other form. Unless you're making the regular present tense standard you form, it'll conjugate like a normal verb we saw as 셔. I have 3 sentences using this. 피자를 좋아하세요? So, do you like? 하세요? pizza. Pizza. If it wasn't a question, it would just be 피자를 좋아하세요. Like, you like pizza if I'm talking about you or someone else. Like, hey, what about your grandmother? 할머니도 피자를 좋아하세요. She also likes pizza because this has the same meaning as 좋아해요. Just now it's honorific. 준비하셨어요? 준비하다 means to prepare or to get ready. So literally, are you prepared? Did you get prepared? 준비하셨어요? Are you ready? 하셨어요. Past tense. The regular way would just be 준비했어요. So that's the most basic way to make honorific verbs. Certain verbs, however, have unique honorific versions, and that must be used instead of the 으시다 ending. The most common one is for 먹다. If you want to make 먹다 into honorific, you cannot 먹으시다. It's not used. It sounds awkward. There are certain verbs that you have to use a completely different verb for when you're making honorifics, or it'll sound awkward. When you want to say to eat, and you want to be honorific, you have to use a different verb, 드시다. And this conjugates the exact same. It ends with 시다. It becomes 세요. Or in the past tense, 드셨어요, like that. So it's a completely normal verb, just you have to learn a separate verb. Another one you'll see, for 자다, to sleep. You wouldn't say 자시다. 주무시다 is to sleep, honorifically. Good night in Korean is 안녕히 주무세요. So that's have a good night. Literally, sleep in peace. Sounds like sleep in peace, my friend. For for to die. You would not say 죽으시다. 돌아가시다 means to pass away. 있다, to exist. Normally you'd ask, is someone there? 지금 있어요? 철수는 지금 집에 없어요. 철수 is not at home, like he's not there. With a person, if you want to use honorific speech, you don't use 있으시다. 100% for a person, 있으시다 is wrong. Instead, you use 계시다, which also conjugates the same way. 할머니는 지금 집에 계세요. Grandmother's at our house right now. 계세요. And then the opposite of 있다 is 없다, right? To not exist. Well, that one's just 안 계시다. However, 할머니는 집에 있으세요. It just sounds weird. You would never use 있으시다 for talking about a person. You have to use 계시다. But that's not to say that 있으시다 and 없으시다 are not used. They do get used. These can be used to show extra respect towards someone else when you're talking about something that they own directly. You can use honorifics when you're talking about things that someone has, like directly belong to them, like their body parts, like their eyes or their hands, their bag. You can also use honorifics to talk about other people's time. 지금 혹시 시간이 있으세요? You could not say 시간이 계세요. But if you're talking about a thing and you want to be extra respectful because it directly is belonging to that person, then you can use 있으시다 and 없으시다. So you will see these used for objects. It's acceptable. So again, you'll see these when talking about things. Don't use these for talking about people. And then don't use 계시다 and 안 계시다 for talking about things. Like 가방이 지금 여기 안 계세요. Sounds like the bag is like royalty or something. 이다 for to be. The honorific form is not special. It's just as you would expect. 이시다, which can become 이세요 or 이셨어요, just like normal. I'm just writing it up here because I haven't shown you 이다 yet. Okay. Now I'm going to give you some sentences. 어떤 거 드시고 싶으세요? So instead of 먹다, 드시다, 싶다, 싶으세요. 어떤 거 드시고 싶어요 is fine actually too, but it's more polite. It's even more respectful if you make all the verbs talking about them into honorific. So 어떤 거 드시고 싶으세요? So what kind of thing, what kind of food here do you want to eat? 드시고 싶으세요 would have the same meaning as 먹고 싶어요. 어떤 거 먹고 싶어요? 어떤 거 드시고 싶으세요? 아직, still, or yet, 하고 계세요. So you don't have to use every single verb in honorific speech if you want, but if it has a separate, unique version, then you must. If you're saying, for example, 하고 있어요, like you're still doing it, 아직 하고 있어요. You don't have to say 하시고 계세요. You can, it's more polite, but it's fine to say just 하고. For our previous example though, with 먹다, you have to. If it has a unique version, you have to say 드시고. You can't say 먹고 계세요. You have to use it if it has a unique version. If it doesn't have a unique version, like 하다 or most verbs, just use the verb normally, you're going to be fine. 필요한 것, something that's necessary, something you need. 있으세요? Is there something that you need? Do you need anything? 필요한 거 있으세요? Is there something you need? Certain nouns are also used when you're speaking honorifically. Again, when you're talking about someone else. So you would not use these nouns to talk about yourself. I'll tell you what they are. 집, the regular word for a house. If you're talking about your own house, your friend's house, you're just gonna say 집. If you're talking about someone else's house, you can also say 집. Or if you want to show extra respect toward someone else's house who you respect, who you look up to, their house is not a 집. Their house is 댁. So your grandmother's house, 할머니 댁. 할머니 댁에 놀러 갔어요. So I went to hang out at my grandmother's house. 사람, for person. 저는 미국 사람이에요. 철수 씨는 한국 분이세요. I'm showing extra respect toward 철수 by using the word 분 instead of 사람. Same meaning. Normally you count people with 명. 한 명, 두 명, 세 명, like that. 한 분, 두 분, 세 분. Your own name is always 이름. But if you're talking about someone else who you'd want to show respect to, you use this word, 성함. 성함 means name. 성함이 어떻게 되세요? Like, what's your name? Okay, next. 나이, for someone's age. Your own age would always be 나이. Someone else's age, if you want to show respect, would be 연세. You use the word 생일 for your own birthday, your friend's birthday. Your grandparents, though, or other people's grandparents, or other people's parents, or your teacher, anyone you want to show extra respect toward, 생신. So that's all you need to know for honorific nouns. I have 2 example sentences here. You walk into a restaurant, they're going to ask you 몇, how many? 몇 분. So that's 몇 사람, how many people? 몇 분이세요? So 이다, 이에요? 몇 분이세요? How many people? 몇 분이세요? And how do you reply? You would reply with 명, the regular person counter. 한 명이요, one person, like I'm by myself. So lonely. 두 명이요, 네 명이요, like that. But they would ask it with 분. 오늘 할머니 생신이에요. So today is my grandmother's 할머니 생신, her birthday, 이에요. Because you're just saying the birthday. It doesn't need to be honorific. It's just a birthday, but now it sounds polite. 오늘 할머니 생신이에요. It's my grandmother's birthday today. When you are using honorific speech, there are a few particles that you can use instead. Instead of the topic marker, you will see 깨서는. That is the topic marker. Instead of saying 할머니는, you could say 할머니께서는. If you wanted to talk about them with the subject marker, like you said, your grandmother, 할머니께서 30분 전에 나가셨어요. My grandmother left 30 minutes ago. She left 30 minutes ago. 깨서 for the subject marker. Or to say to a person, you can use the particle 께. 할머니께 물어봤어요. I asked it to 할머니에게. I asked it to my grandmother. 할머니께 물어봤어요. I asked my grandmother. These are not required. The verbs are the most important you want to use. Next is you definitely want to use some of those nouns. For the particles, you will get away with not using them. So if you said 할머니는 주무시고 계세요, like she's currently sleeping, that sounds very polite. You don't need to say 할머니께서는 지금 주무시고 계세요. It sounds very respectful. You do not always need to use these. I would say if you feel like you want to show extra respect, add these, and you will see these. And then again, this only would go after a person. So you wouldn't say like 피자께서는 맛있어요. Like pizza tastes good. That doesn't make any sense. It's only for people. These are not necessary, but again, if you want to be more respectful, I do recommend using these. 사장님께서는, so 사장님은 일찍 early 나가셨어요. So 나가다, to leave, to go out. So the boss 나가셨어요, left early. And it ends with the regular 요 form, so that's the level of politeness shown to the person you're speaking to. But now it's honorific toward the boss. 나가셨어요. 선생님께서, so 선생님이 똑똑하세요 is smart. 선생님께서 똑똑하세요. That is everything you need to know about honorific speech. Thank you everyone for coming out, and I will see you next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.